What's up, y'all? We're back to get this clutch done. We planned on doing it a little earlier this week, but things got busy, so we're gonna go ahead and get her done now. So we'll go ahead and get started on this here. Most of these clutches are all pretty much the same for all motorcycles. Any wet clutch will pretty much be like this. This one's torn down a little further, so if you ever have to do the basket and everything, you'll know how. Make sure you can either write down when you're taking everything apart, take pictures, write it down, whatever you got to do if you don't have a book. You can tell by most of the time, you can watch your wear patterns. You'll have your first spacer that goes in. If you can see the wear patterns on this, you can tell it's got wear in 3 different places. And then you can just see the spacer ring there. Kind of indicates where everything goes. Make sure you pre-lube everything. That way you're not dry starting it. This particular engine is a FZR 696 model crotch rocket engine. So it's a little different on these. You want to make sure that you reach back behind there. And you can see that little movement right there. When you line up, you got to make sure that you have your main drive sprockets or gears and your oil pump sprocket lined up in the back. Really not a whole lot to them. If this wouldn't have exploded like it did, just changing plates isn't a big deal. Get the clutch boss in there. This is just a retainer plate for the that you can bend over and it holds the nut on. Now this is where it's best if you invest in a tool to hold that inner drum. So you can tighten that nut up. They actually make a clutch holding tool. I actually have one, I'm just not sure where it is, so we're going to do it this way. It's kind of hard on the fingers, but you want to try and get lined up to where the tangs will bend out on a flat part of the nut, if you can get it that far. Make sure that clutch boss spins freely. And then, not so sure you can see exactly what I'm doing in the camera, but you just want to bend them tabs back up. The best that you can. Sometimes they can be a little bit tricky. Like this one. This is just a little plunger here. That's actually what actuates your clutch on these. Well, disengages your clutch. I didn't show you, but most of the time when you do new clutch plates, mine have actually been pre-soaking in oil for about a week. Whatever oil you're going to run, pre-soak them. And then the clutch plate assembly is fairly simple. You got your friction disc. Always start with a friction. And then you got your steel discs. These aren't in the greatest shape. Got a couple small burn spots on them. And then just keep going back and forth. Friction, steel, friction, steel. Hopefully this all holds together good. Unfortunately, we were unable to get new parts. We got new plates, but the basket and the clutch boss were both used. Because the parts have been discontinued and I could not find one. These parts that I bought actually did come with clutch plates also, but just spend the money. Never, ever put a used clutch back in your machine. Especially something like this. This one takes a second. Due to having so many plates, there's the last steel plate. We got one more friction plate. You'll always start with a friction and end with a friction. Then you'll go back on with your pressure plate. This particular machine, I already had Barnett springs in it. So that's what we're going back in. We didn't have any need to replace the springs. Well, that's not what we wanted to do. Definitely not what we wanted to do there. Apparently that we may want to get some other screws to go back in there. So I guess I'm going to grab a drill in the easy outs and get this little problem taken care of, and then I'll get back with you. Okay, so we're back. We got our little problem taken care of. Got it drilled out, cleaned up. Turned the camera off so you didn't hear all the cussing. Anybody that's ever done it understands. Got another set of bolts to go in just in case any of those other ones. I imagine that one was cracked already because we did have a pretty massive explosion in here. Well, that's pretty much all there is to buttoning up the clutch. We did not change the gasket. We probably should have. The original gasket didn't look too bad. We just threw a little bit of anaerobic flange sealant on the back of it. It's very expensive gasket sealant, but it's way better than silicone. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So now we got her all back together. We'll just get the pegs and everything back on it, running boards, and she should be good to go. If you like what I got going on so far, you like the channel, we'll get into this thing more later. We're going to do a whole video about this machine. This is one of the first ones I ever built. Hit the like button, subscribe. Doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the channel. We'll be getting the merchandise store up and going pretty soon. So stick with us. We're going to try and bring you some fun stuff.